SEO improvements were one of Next.js's main promises. They were reiterated with version 13 and the new app router. The improvements that the app router brings include greater speed and reduced JavaScript thanks to React Server components. However, some features of the app router aim to address SEO needs directly. So let's dive in and explore first how to generate metadata, second, how to create the robots and sitemap content, and third, how to create structured data. Let's dive right in. Next.js generates the metadata for your page via additional functions within the page.txt file. The generate metadata function has the same calling signature as the main component function. However, instead of returning JSX, the function returns an object with key value pairs, and these pairs define the metadata that is going to be injected into the document head. So here, for example, we have the title and the description. We start by importing metadata from Next, and then we call the generate metadata function, and we have the parameters with the language. I've mentioned that in the localization video, which is available here, and we just return a promise of the metadata. And here, for example, we return simply the title and the description. So far, so good. That's fairly simple, and that's thanks to the new app router. It wasn't possible in this way with the previous version. There was the head component. The robots and sitemap content are generated somewhat like the page components. For the robots content, which tells bots from search engines where to look, including where to find the sitemap, you create a robots.ts file at the root of your app folder. This file exports a default function. The function returns an object that defines the content of the robots file. And this content results in the following robots file being generated, which follows exactly the same structure as the object that we returned from the robots function. Now, how do we create dynamic sitemaps with Next.js? The sitemap.ts file follows a similar principle of returning data that defines the sitemap content. Allow me to walk you through my code. First, I import the root metadata type called metadata root from Next. Then I define a default exported function, which returns a promise of sitemap data. Within this function, I define a constant called URL list. This is an array of strings. I start with the known paths, which are static. So here typically /en and /fr. Then I fetch all the dynamic content. I get the corresponding URLs and I add them to this list of URLs. So for example, I get all the posts that are of type blog posts, and I add their URLs to the URL list. Finally, I use the map array function to transform my list of strings into a list of objects. These objects each have a URL and a last modified members. This list of objects is what the function returns and what serves to generate my sitemap. All of this allows me to easily have a dynamic updated sitemap. Another important part of SEO is presenting data in a format that engines can easily digest. The ideal way to do so is via structured data, which is a standardized format which tells search engine bots exactly what the page contains. This helps search engines better understand and index your content. However, it can also enhance how your page is shown in search results. This improves the click-through rate and overall website visibility. So how can we add structured data to our website? Well, let's take the example of a blog post schema. The fun part of using structured data is that the schema and the types are complex, especially if you're using TypeScript. Thankfully, there's a library called schema-dts, which covers exactly this use case. This means that we can use the provided TypeScript types to help us ensure we provide data with the right shape. So for example, in our case, let's import blog posting and with context from this library. Now let's generate an object. I pass in the content data, which follows a post type that I've defined for my data, and I use that post data to generate an object that follows the with context blog posting schema. Inside my object, I have @context, which is https://schema.org, then @type, which is blog posting, and then I simply pass in the headline, the description, and the author, which is a list of another schema, a sub-schema of type person, which is me. I also add in the image and the publication date. And then I return that schema. I have a structured data component that takes the structured data object and renders it as an LD plus JSON script, which is the format that Google prefers. It's a very simple component. It simply renders a script tag, which has the information that it's of type LD plus JSON, and it just returns a JSON stringified version of the data. Within the page, I simply add the component and pass in the data, the metadata that I've generated within my function. On my website, I've used the schema for various other things like providing FAQs. You can find plenty of other types defined and explained at the schema.org website and other websites. As you can see, the app router in Next.js makes all these SEO features fairly easy to implement. If you want to better understand how the app router does its thing, I have a video on the subject right here for you. And if you want to understand how to translate a Next.js application that uses the app router, well, this is for you. And if there are other subjects you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments and I'll add them in the description. In the meantime, I'll see you in the next video.